Hey, what's happening, folks? Welcome back to the Play to Win podcast. I'm Alex, and I've got your other game gurus here, Jared
Hello.
and Josh.
What's up?
What's happening, folks? You guys seem very enthusiastic right now. I love it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I got
it's
old man errands to run.
it's a rough one and it's rough life out there in the gaming industry these days. So
Oh my God, yeah. Let's
A little bit. Yeah.
well, we'll table some of the negative discussion to next week, but why don't we just go ahead and jump into it? The great Xbox reset of 2026. I feel like a month ago we were talking about, wow, that's an awesome showcase. This is exciting. And 2 weeks later, we're like, wow, this has been, the whiplash is real. My neck is hurting. I feel like I just got taken for a ride.
it's like SpongeBob.
Oh my God.
3 days later.
So, there's a lot to unpack here. I don't want to spend too much time in it, but I do think we need to address the elephant in the room. So let's start with the good news. Good news is there were 4 to 5, well, I think 6 total studios on the chopping block. 4 were almost guaranteed to be shut down if nothing happened. And they were able to spin out those studios, found buyers for 2, and 2 were able to take over and go independent again. And they're going with their IP, which is incredible for those studios. So it's rough, but that's probably the best case scenario. And as far as good news goes, that's really all I've got.
I can put a
I
somewhat
like-
positive spin on it in the sense of, there's going to be attrition and people losing their jobs, which absolutely sucks. But I feel for so long, going back almost 20 years, they made a South Park episode out of it. The whole gaming wars got really toxic. And it got to the point to where it turned into an arms race. And they were just buying up literally everything and everyone that they possibly could to make it individual IP, which, okay, that you got money injected into these smaller studios, but at the same time, you have oversight that these smaller studios didn't used to have. And now they're playing ball with Sony, or they're playing ball with Microsoft, or they're playing ball with EA. And they were going for quantity over quality. And for the longest time, we lost so much of that wonderful creativity that came from individual studios. And I think that this reset is kind of an unfortunate into all of that. And it'll be, while it sucks now, I think it'll hopefully get us back to a situation to where we have a decent mix of independent, not necessarily AAA studios, but high quality studios that can put out games without Microsoft or Sony breathing down their necks with concern about the stakeholders.
Yeah.
And we're not going to lose games our Dead Spaces and things like that. We're going to have studios being able to remain independent, and we're going to have big studios and publishers not wanting to suck up all of these studios. And I think that the whole exclusivity item, I think it's kind of settled into a few handful of studios in the individual companies. And I don't think they're going to try to buy up all of these independent studios anymore. So I think this will eventually, in the next 5 years, lead to better, more competitive, and more options in gaming. And I think that it'll help with price points, because some of these studios that aren't Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, Take-Two, they're not gonna be able to sell their games at $70, $80. They're gonna have to sell them back at normal prices. So I think this is a brutal first necessary step to correcting the toxicity that the Sony people and Phil brought to the industry for so freaking long. And it's just going to get back to making games for the love of making games, especially with these smaller studios, and not have to worry about stakeholders and all of that bullshit.
So before we jump to Josh, a couple of things I want to comment on related to that, because I see what you're saying, and I think there's definitely a lot of that going on. Not our topic for this week, but the Sony news really puts a wrench in that, I think. I think the thing I want to highlight that you said really, or emphasize from what you said, is that this is not just an Xbox issue. Xbox is the one who's getting the big news. Xbox the one doing the brutal bloodbath reset right now. It's everywhere. Sony's hurting. Bungie just got huge layoffs. Destiny's being sunsetted, and they spent billions of dollars on that. This is an interesting point, but I recently heard from the folks over at Beyond, which is IGN's
Mhm.
PlayStation podcast. There are 7 first-party exclusives to the PS5 this generation. 7. Only 7 games that you can only play on the PS5.
And 2 of them are Astrobot, probably,
And
games?
yep, Astrobot and Astro's Playroom are 2 of them. That's wild. Everybody is hurting for money. I worry that these smaller studios are going to get shuttered. I worry that because even these ones spinning off from Xbox right now, like unless they've got like a deal in place to produce a game, which they might, think Toys
Mhm.
for Bob. It was like an ideal situation. They got out before they saw the writing on the wall. They're like, we want to do something. Hey, we can still produce a game for you though. Let's make Spyro. And it looks good. It looks like it's going to
Yeah.
be a really good game. I don't know if that's going to happen. It was kind of weird how they presented games in the showcase for studios they knew they were going to either shutter or sell. It was like a fire sale, essentially. It's like, hey, they've got this really cool game. We don't want it, but maybe you do. So I think that's actually, as weird as that was, that's
Yeah.
probably what has saved both, I forget the name of the studio, but the one that's doing State of Decay 3 and then Ninja Theory, doing Senua.
Is that
So that's been a
Undead
big save.
Undead Labs?
Dead Labs, yeah, you got it,
Okay.
Josh.
Yeah, there you go.
So I'm curious, Josh, what is your thought on? I mean, I think we're
It's well,
And
and,
sorry, Josh, real quickly too, another element I do want to throw into this conversation is the 10 years of people trying to capitalize on games as a service and buying
Yeah.
up
Oh, yeah.
studios, dedicating them to that and throwing all their money into them just for a game to get shuttered after a week and failure.
Yeah.
So anyway,
a
sorry,
la
go Josh.
Concord. I mean, that was a big Sony
That's a
problem.
huge
Yeah.
I think that's a huge symptom of what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jared, I wanted to clarify because I was pulling up some notes at the start, but you were leading off with essentially like the console wars,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Well, I wanted to also chime in just how what we've kind of seen over the past 6 years with the boom of essentially COVID with the
Yeah.
gaming industry and market, and how people really just didn't have a whole lot of anything else to do, and
Yep.
perhaps maybe there was a little bit of a elevated market value to the
False
big 3 or
demand
4 players
This
in
will never
the
change, right?
industry.
or
Yeah, but
phantom demand. We'll call it phantom
right,
demand
right,
for
right.
COVID.
But what kind of spills over with that was all of the like you've kind of hinted upon, the buying up of studios because they thought there was going to be so much more demand than there actually was, inflated due to the pandemic, and
Yep.
now we're really seeing the I don't know if I'd call it a lack of foresight, but perhaps the incorrect forecasting, or putting all maybe most of your chips into one element of the forecast instead of maybe the more conservative fiscal forecast of how that might play out, and really how it's kind of, I don't want to say it's gutted the industry completely, but it's definitely done a number on the intestines of the industry in
The
terms
industry
of
has diarrhea.
well, yeah, I mean, it's leaking employees, baby. It's leaking software engineers and
I'm not
designers,
comfortable with this analogy anymore.
and no, but it's been really just difficult to see studios get bought up, and then it's almost like maybe since like 2021, we've kind of had an idea of how this formula goes. Studio gets bought up for its IP. Maybe one game gets released, and it could do okay to critical acclaim. At least 20% of the studio is then getting shuttered right after that game comes out, potentially
Mhm.
50% or more. And I mean, we kind of we see it with the Xbox division now. I think with this great reset, they're shuttering 3,200 roles, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they just cut
So
1,600, and there's another 1,600 that'll be cut over the course of the year.
so
So there's
yeah,
people working not knowing if they're going to be part of
yeah,
that crew, right?
yeah,
Which is unfortunate.
and that makes your life stressful, not only your job stressful. I mean, I mean, not everyone, but a lot of these people have children, families, wives, you know, at
Cars, homes.
cars. And I mean, a lot of these locations are in very maybe more expensive places to live as well, like the West Coast, East Coast.
Mhm.
We don't really see a typical amount of those studios located in the Midwest, but even overseas, and it's really, I don't know, it's just been hard to watch, and
Yeah.
it doesn't give you a whole lot of faith in the future of the gaming industry as a whole.
There's two things I think you can point to, at least with Xbox, that's been a problem. And I think this applies to even like Sony in aspects, for example, like Bungie and Ubisoft and EA. So I think this is kind of, to me, this seems like a thread worth pulling. And the two things I've noticed with Xbox are leadership issues. Like how do you let Redfall happen, right? Like you own the studio. Presumably you look at the game at some point and say, yes, that needs to be greenlit and go, or no, we need to not do this. Like cancel it or give them more time. But you think you at some point would have someone checking in and saying, this one isn't quite ready, like the dough is still gooey. So leadership is a problem. And to add on to that, Asha Sharma had quoted, and I'm not going to quote her, but the gist of what she said was there were like 13 to 14 levels of leadership that often things had to travel through before they got greenlit or got decided on. That would be like us. I mean, that I can't even come up with a real representation of that because I've never had 13 bosses.
I've had a similar experience where I had an internship once, and this is a huge national major company that all of us used to work for at one point, and they were putting out some big new
Yeah.
rollout promotion thing. They had all the marketing materials out to print, but they had 3 senior VPs that stuff had to get run through. They had started printing everything. One of the senior VPs disagreed on the phrasing of like one sentence, and so they halted everything after
Yeah.
already beginning to start it back over, and then they complain about bleeding money. And it's just like, yeah, bureaucracy
That's
like that in companies that require decisions like this in gaming industry, it's even more it's dicier because you have people leading these companies, at least up to this point, that don't understand the industry. They're a bunch of business people that don't understand gaming anymore. And
Shareholders,
so
yeah.
yeah, and so like I think that's part of the problem is they're trying to assume what's going to be successful from a business standpoint, but they just don't understand the industry.
well,
And
and
I
to
think
that
at a certain
point,
point too, like Phil was great at the
mhm.
beginning of his tenure, but he got awful because I think he had to start answering to more board members and more levels of
Yeah.
bureaucracy, and all the stuff had to get filtered through
And it
more
didn't help his
voices.
cause that his baby Game Pass, like most people thought when it was incepted, was indeed hemorrhaging a lot of money. What
Yeah.
it was losing, what, like, was it like 60, it was only making 60 cents per on average, right? Per Game
I
Pass
actually
release? Was it something like that?
so I'm not sure because the I think the quote you're talking about is the Asha said Xbox makes like 60 cents for every dollar or something like
Yes,
that
yeah,
or
exactly,
something
yes,
like that.
spent on
But
Game Pass, right?
I think that's across the board. I don't think that's just on Game Pass. And
Okay.
that's the weird thing too, because we've seen a lot of discussion. And the next part I'm going to talk about is messaging. So this kind of is a nice tie-in. But before we do that, I want to comment on Jared's point here is we don't know how much of this is Satya Nadella coming in and saying, yeah, you were doing this. I want you to do this instead. And we all saw this start to trend down when Microsoft said, you know what, we're going to spend $96 billion. We spent $96 billion on Activision, right? On that purchase. We're also going to spend $96 billion on AI. That's a problem. We just spent $190 million. And well, we're not going to not spend the money on AI. So Xbox needs to make up for that. And maybe before we're like, we're going to let this cook for a little bit. On top of that, we got the problem that Microsoft is part of the reason why parts are so freaking expensive right now because they're spending so much money on these data centers, causing machines to be, twice as much of what they were on release, or at least 40% increase. So I want to comment on what Josh was saying as well, and I've kind of moved away from it. So give me a second to collect my thoughts here. But essentially, we were talking about the Game Pass of it all. And this is what these corporate types do when they want to push something. They talk about how Game Pass is successful in doing things. But when they're like, "No, we don't want to do that anymore," they talk about how bad it is and how it's not doing well for us. And the truth is somewhere in the middle, obviously. Game Pass was not the big win that they thought it would be. And I wonder how much of that is due to mixed messaging. You think about this, like, was the hope that they were going to get Game Pass on? I mean, the hope had to have been getting Game Pass subscriptions not on Xbox because they weren't selling consoles and they didn't give us a reason to buy consoles really until maybe just recently. But even that, it's like it's too expensive to buy a damn console. So if you only out of a few cases can only get Game Pass on console, there's the PC, obviously. You can get it for your phone and TV, but that's not what people want to do. But you're not selling your consoles or giving people a reason to buy the console. Who the hell is going to subscribe to Game Pass? PlayStation owners can't use it on their PlayStation, and we're probably mostly looking at people on consoles. So you can't get it on Nintendo, you can't get it on PlayStation, you can only get it on Xbox, and there's like 40, 50 million Xbox sold out there. I'm kind of guessing, but I think that's probably roughly, and there's 30 million subscribers in Game Pass. That's actually pretty damn good. In my book. But your growth is, I think the growth is way capped to what they thought it was going to be. So the last thing I'll finish up and I'll turn to you guys and see what your thoughts are. So my second point of why Xbox has been struggling and why I also think the issue, actually, this is why I think Sony has done so well this generation, because Sony really hasn't done anything this generation. They've just kind of maintained. It's marketing, it's PR, it's messaging. Every time Xbox has something positive to say, they follow it up with 2 or 3 negative statements, right? A la amazing showcase, we're killing these franchises, we're killing these jobs, we're killing these studios. Okay, well that sucks. Every time Xbox constantly does that. Mixed messaging, there's poor messaging, there's no idea what this, I mean, everything's an Xbox, but you need to buy the Xbox. It's not, what's the reason to buy this console? Are we going to have another console? Yes, but maybe we're focusing on this. It's just for the average consumer, it's like, what the hell are we doing here? And I'm confused and I'm pretty plugged into this. I think we're all pretty plugged into this and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And that's one thing I think Asha's been doing that's been helpful is she's finally saying there's one direct direction we're going. Time will tell. But what Sony has done is they've done almost all the same things, right? They've lost jobs. They've had to cut IP. They've floundered and closed studios. They've shut down games before they even came out. They have, I mean, they've raised prices on everything. Sony's done literally everything Xbox has done. They just do it they don't make a big deal about the negatives and they're able to counter and message much cleaner than Xbox is. I think that's a big problem for Microsoft.
It's the famous and the shoe was on the other foot at the time, but it was like when the PS3 was announced at like however much it was, and the Xbox dude just walked out and just said the price. And these game studios, Xbox and Sony, it seems like every other generation, one steps on a rake and the other one just like walks past the other one, and it's always been like that.
Yeah.
PS2, Xbox 360, Xbox 3, like it's always been a back and forth race because whoever's in the lead in the last generation is too high on their own supply.
And Sony's been in the lead for 2 generations now, and I think we're starting to see their cockiness come to fruition. We'll talk about that next month, but
well, and
Josh, I want to give you go ahead.
It's interesting. Because you had brought up the subscriber count, right? 30 million, right? Of Game Pass, that's roughly somewhere around there.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, and yes, when you sold 40 million Xbox Series consoles, 75% is a pretty good swath, but a lot of those subscribers could also be primarily gaming on PC, right? That is a valid possibility.
I think that's the hope for Xbox is that a lot of them are on PC because I think that's their growth market they've been shooting for. Honestly, I think this whole time Xbox's plan was to basically move into the PC market. They just needed to gradually pull console gamers there.
But the thing is when you gotta fight Valve. Yeah. You got to fight Valve, but you also you've put yourself now. I mean, Xbox is effectively now cemented as like number 3 in the console market, I would say, right?
Unless you throw the Playdate in there.
Playdate?
It was the best-selling I think it was the Playdate. It's that little box cube thing with
That
the
cube
camera on
thing
it
with
for
the
kids.
yeah. I know what you're
No,
talking
I
It
about.
was
don't.
the
I don't throw that in
best-selling
there.
console of last year.
But no, I don't put that on there. But what I
It
was gonna
was
say
yeah.
was your leverage is like market leverage is very limited. Even I mean, and it's even more so under the microscope, like you said, along with Sony doing the same thing because you're viewed by consumers, by industry pundits as the third place currently. So if your competition in first is doing the exact same things that you are, but possibly on a more grand scale, then I mean you're really kind of positioned well just by doing nothing. And it's kind of centrally what we've been talking about for the past few minutes on Sony here. But yeah, Microsoft just it doesn't really seem like with Xbox they've had a clear mission with Xbox consoles and Game Pass working in concert for about a decade now, and it's just kind of this is kind of the fruit of that labor, I suppose.
I have advice for both main companies that we're talking about mostly because Nintendo's. I
Go
mean,
ahead
Nintendo's
and
Nintendo. They're doing their
go
thing.
ahead and share that, and then we'll transition afterwards. Go ahead, Jared.
Sony, Microsoft. Quit sucking up studios. Do what you got to do attrition wise because we know that just has to happen,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And then shut the fuck up and make games. EA, you're part of this too. Make games people want.
Mhm.
Don't make all these games as a service stuff. I'm talking Mass Effect. I'm talking again, that's EA, and I realize they don't make consoles and stuff like that. But just put your head down and make the games people want. Games of a service is done. Quit trying to do that. The hero shooters that are out are out. People are playing those. You're not going to beat them. GTA Online, that's not even rolling in November, but when that comes out, that's going to be the games as a service. You're not going to print money like Take Two. Just do what you're good at. Make God of War.
Make
Make
God of
freaking
War.
make freaking Fable. Like I mean, Asher Sharma. She said, you know what? Obsidian, Avowed, whatever. I'm sorry, might have been a good game. You're making a Fallout game because that's
Yeah.
all I've been hearing is people want Obsidian to make a Fallout game. And after all this time, nobody has told Obsidian to make a freaking Fallout game.
It's been 6
And that's
years
all
since
people
I
have been asking
right?
for like the
Yeah.
past 20
Yeah.
freaking years. Why don't you listen to the people that give you money? So listen to people that give you money. Quit listening to your board members who are going to be dead in 5 years, and listen to the industry. Okay, that's what's going to make you money. If you make good shit, people will buy it. If you make crap, there's so much crap slung at us these days. We're gonna ignore it, and you're gonna lose money. So just do what you did to get in the position to where you were able to screw things up and get back to making games people want.
How you got in this position, do the
Yeah.
opposite of it.
Yes, exactly. Just make
Just
good
be the
shit.
opposite.
Just stop
And
doing
you
what
know,
you're doing and do what you
Make
used to.
make the pricing dynamic. Like, okay, if there's a game that's like Crimson Desert to where you can do everything under the freaking sun, yeah, I'll pay $70 for it. But if you have a very mainline 10-hour game, I'm not going to pay $70 for that. I'm going to wait till it's on sale. So price things accordingly. There's no set like just listen to the industry and quit trying
well,
to
and
siphon money out of
you can
everything,
look
and you'll
at
make money.
the success stories in the industry, the Nintendos, right? Putting out a game every month, essentially telling the industry. I mean, they do a good job of telling the industry what you want and listening to people, but also telling them what they want. And Capcom puts out a game all the time. I mean, they put out new games all the time, and they're extremely successful, and they've really got a rhythm, and they look great, and everybody loves what Capcom's doing, and they're doing exactly what the industry wants. They're doing exactly what gamers want. Fun games, good-looking games, good pace.
I did just bring them up, but Pearl Abyss, I think, is really kind of setting a new standard for some of these older studios because they're a relatively obscure Korean studio that made a beautiful MMO. Black Desert's a very beautiful game and all of that, but Crimson Desert, their first foray into single player gaming, they're treating it like they're supporting a live service game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they have had updates almost weekly. I heard they might be changing the freaking story now because they've heard like they're listening to the people. It was an expensive game up front, but it's worth it because not only
Yeah.
did you get hundreds of hours of content to start with, but now you have a studio that is supporting their game more than I have seen a studio
Yeah.
support a game in ever. I've never seen
Yeah.
a big mainline game like this with this quality get this much back end support. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's similar. It's a little similar to No Man's Sky, but
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
maybe more approachable to the everyday single player gamer from an
yeah.
adventure style standpoint.
So let's shift to our topic. I think this is something we could continue to discuss over the let's be honest, the years, because this is not going away. So, full transparency, this is our second take at Star Wars Outlaws. We had some technical
Oops.
difficulties last time, so we're gonna jump into this one this time. Star Wars Outlaws. Let's see, got to get my data going. I'm hearing some stuff in the background, Jared. Everybody all right over there?
Sorry, folks. I live with chaos incarnate, and so any voices, sounds that you're hearing, it is that little demon running around upstairs. So
Okay. So, Star Wars Outlaws, developed by Massive Entertainment. It is an Ubisoft title. Let's see. It is actually was nominated for most anticipated game at the Game Awards. It came out initially August 27th, 2024, and it is on all platforms. I actually think it's gotten a lot of kudos on the Nintendo Switch for being just a spectacular Switch port. Now, on PS5, generally favorable Metascore with a 75, 76 on Xbox, 77 on PC. So right in the mid sevens range. However, user reviews are rather mixed, 5.6 roughly. So it's not getting the best user reviews. Yeah,
I
5.6.
think a lot of
And
that is salty Star Wars bros that are mad that there's a
Mm.
woman in the lead. So you got to
I
consider that
yeah,
as a part of that.
I 100% agree. I don't think this game, just the long and short of it, and I think Jared would agree, we all would agree, this game is a solid game, but it's not going to light the world on fire. It doesn't completely redo or reinvigorate or change anything in the industry. It's not groundbreaking in any way. It is a
7.5, baby.
Yep, solid Star Wars story. And the beauty of it is it doesn't you're not playing as a Jedi. It's not the typical things. You can actually go through and see the world in a way that's
Yeah.
different than what we've done before. So let's kind of jump into things. Jared, what's your let's start with your kind of high level takeaway of Outlaws. When you think of Outlaws,
You
what
you
comes to
kind
your
of you kind of
mind?
touched on it to where it shows the unspectacular side of Star Wars, and I don't mean that in a bad, disparaging way. I mean like you don't have Jedi, you don't have Sith. I mean, yeah, you have the ISB, which is like this the Gestapo of the Empire, and they play a big part in this. And you get a cameo from the big black murder machine, but at the same
Yeah.
time, like Kay is a very unspectacular, uninteresting, insignificant person in the grand scheme of the Star Wars universe. And I think that, like in the movie, she'd be a background character. And I think that that is kind of refreshing in this sense that she's not on a mission to save the galaxy or to enact change. I really like the fact that the the rebellion in this is kind of an inconvenience to her, and she sees them as kind of dickheads that just use people for their ends, which is kind of a new take on it. And I think it's if you're a Star Wars fan, this is a worthwhile story to to experience. If you're just like a big, pretty open world game with a satisfying story and you like sci-fi fan, I think this, especially in its latest iteration, I think it's a great game for you to play. I wouldn't say like if you're neither of those, buy it at full price, which I don't think you can anymore anyway. But I mean, it's a great game to pick up on a discount. It's a great game to play on Ubisoft Plus. Like it's a solid, fun game,
It's
and
on
especially
Plus, it's on Game Pass. It's
yeah,
easy to get affordably.
especially if you're a Star Wars fan, I think there's no excuse not to roll through it, especially now because it gives you a lot of background stuff. Kira's in here from Solo, so you get to kind of see where she ended up after all of this. You get a little bit more Jabba and Bib Fortuna and people like that. Like it's a cool game. And it just I think it's kind of like a Star Wars palate cleanser because again,
Yeah.
you're not trying to save the galaxy.
Well, one of the big takeaways from our last conversation about this game was being while it's a big open world game. You get to visit multiple planets and systems, and you can explore space a little bit. You can explore these planets quite a bit. There's a lot of towns and cities to go through and different factions to work with. It's a contained story, right?
Yeah.
It's really focused on this one person and her story as opposed to saving the entire galaxy. And that's refreshing, especially in an age where we're starting to get tired with these huge, we got to kill a god. We've got to, I mean, Jared, Josh, actually, I'm thinking about like all the games you and I love to play, the JRPGs. It's basically a basic person, like a teenager who ends up having to kill a god by the end. This is not that story. This is very focused. This is very contained, and it's refreshing in a lot of ways. It's not the Marvel, we've got to save the universe from Thanos now. It's like the Iron Man, I've just got to take care
It's
of this
Spider-Man.
one guy.
It's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And admittedly, when I first played this game, I was just waiting for when am I going to meet the rebellion? When are they going to loot me into some big old battle against the Empire? And then they're going to be the people that clear my name. I was waiting for it, and it didn't happen, and I was so happy. Spoilers.
Yeah. I'm curious, Josh, what are your thoughts on our discussions about this game, or what are your takeaways, like top level takeaways from what you've seen, what we've talked about?
Yeah, so admittedly to all the listeners, I have not played this game. So I know it exists, and while I'm a fan of the Star Wars
I hope you
universe.
know it exists.
Well, I mean, I'm a fan of Star Wars in general,
Yeah.
but I just know how I've felt about games in the past that have been created off that, structure, or I guess a world, right, outside of maybe KOTOR. But and I was just kind of hesitant to pull the trigger. But I mean, it sounds like a lot of, I would think, what you would hope to expect from a open world ish Star Wars game, set in this era. You can't, if you really think about it logically, you can't make that person a Jedi because everyone would be trying to kill them and they wouldn't really be able to travel openly. And they probably have more laser focused topics that they need to be at hand with other than just goofing around in the desert. So, I think
There's
from
a
a
lot of that in
character,
Star Wars, actually.
I think for the for the type of character that this is, it seems to fit the narrative very well in how, it's just kind of a way to maybe ingratiate yourself a little bit more with the tangible aspects of the Star Wars universe that, people have been desperately wanting fleshed out in a way that they can interact with. As far as like the gameplay of it, yeah, I've not really interacted with it that much, so that's all I
Well,
got for
It's
you.
gameplay
I
is
think
it's sorry, you're probably going to something else. I'm sure we're going to talk about gameplay, but it's 7.5 gameplay for a game like this.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Well,
it's good.
what I was going to mention before we jump into
There's
gameplay,
some
because I think
there's a
that's
lot
a
more
good
stealth
topic.
in it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that here in a second, because that's
Yeah.
an important factor, because that was I think a big reason why some of these scores are so low too, is how the gameplay was initially at release.
Yeah.
So before we jump into that, though, I think Josh's perspective here as an outsider is really important, because to me that's highlights how we have, other than the hardcore Star Wars fans, a lot of fans have been alienated or just been burned by the genre or by the IP, right? Like Disney took over the IP and really, really kind of ran it into the ground, just like they did with Marvel. Not that Marvel is bad or that Star Wars
Yeah.
and its content is bad. It's just we've saturated the market in a lot of ways because there's just so much content. And the reason why it was so beloved and revered before is because you had 3 movies forever, and that's all you got, and they were great. And then you got
Yeah.
3 more movies, and that's all you got, and they were
Kind of
they were
fan
what they were.
servicey. Yeah, but they were
And
good
then you
still.
got 3 more movies later, and we're like, yeah, okay, those are cool. But then we started getting more and more and more, and they did a lot better with the game side of things because now we've got games to play. And I mean, with the EA had the license for 10 years and we got like 2 games out of it. But, so I think that point is important. Jumping to gameplay, and I think the only one of us here who played the original iteration is Jared, so I want to hear what he's got to say. My understanding is the original release of this game was very, very heavy on the stealth. And some of the frustrations that came out is it was required stealth. If you failed, the mission was over. And it's really easy to fail a stealth moment in these games. I mean, think Assassin's Creed. You go in with the best intentions and then you fail, and then now everything goes to hell. And that's Assassin's Creed. You can get out, you can restart, you can kill a bunch of people and go like murder machine. This game wasn't that way at release. So, Jared, having played it both before and after the updates, I mean, kind of compare, contrast that perspective for us.
I just want to preface this by saying I have a high tolerance for inconveniences in games.
Yeah.
So while it was annoying, it wasn't like the big deal that everybody was making out of it. Yeah, when you do a stealth section and you auto fail, it sucks. But once I learned that, I just
Yeah.
I managed the game differently and I got through it. So I think while it's better now, people love to bitch about stuff. And that was just I wanted a red car and you gave me a blue car kind of a deal, as opposed to this is how the game is, deal with it. Because I mean, Demon Souls, it's a hard game. They're not going to make it easier because you can't play it. That being said, auto failing on stealth, especially in a game like this, is a bullshit mechanic, and it should have never been in there. And being an open world game like this, like if it were a linear game, I get it. That's fine. If that's the point of it, okay. If this is Splinter Cell or whatnot, but it's not Splinter Cell. You're a freaking trailer park smuggler in the Star Wars
Mhm.
universe on Tatooine. You're not a freaking spy. And so, yeah, it should have never been in there. It was manageable, 100%. But yeah, the gameplay to start was annoying, and not just in the stealth situation and the equipment situation as well. Like you'd pick up a blaster from a stormtrooper and you couldn't do anything until you put that blaster down. That really irked me.
Yeah,
So there
I'm
was
glad they
just
fixed that.
yeah, there's just and riding your speeder before when you were in combat on your speeder, you had to like lock on to the different to the other speeders that were chasing you. You couldn't just like Red Dead Redemption it and like point your gun at them and shoot them. And that was awful.
See, I find the having to aim while driving in this game to be cumbersome as well.
And I
But
didn't
I
do
didn't play
too
it the
much
other
of
way.
that since they made that
Same.
change, but like
Same.
they made some really questionable gameplay decisions at the top of it, but I think that this game has enough redeeming values to where I feel like a lot of those things were overblown. Granted, you also have to look at the fact that this is published by Ubisoft, AAA studio. They should know better in instances like this to have solid gameplay, but it's also Ubisoft. They put
Yep.
underbaked games out all the time. So it sucked. It was inconvenient, but like I was just as salty at the Mary Jane portions of the Spider-Man game, the first one, when I had to go stealth there. I was more salty there than I was in this in the stealth sessions because I think that they were easy enough to get past. But that's me. But I'm glad they listened. I'm glad they made this game more modern in the sense
Yeah.
that you're not stuck in that one way of playing, and it didn't make sense as the character and as the story anyway to autofill on stealth. And I think the consequences of it is you have to shoot your way out of a game's territory and you lose favor with them. And I think that
Yeah.
that's how it should have been the entire
I
time.
agree, and I think some of the things that I struggled with in this game was I felt the combat mechanics were a little bit rough, probably because they were geared towards being a stealth game in the first place. So like combat wasn't the main focus. I felt I really like the underlying let's upgrade your shit. Let's
Yeah.
like get new stuff and you get a better blaster, you get a better like
I
bombs and
really
stuff.
enjoyed that part of it.
I like that too. I feel like the system wasn't super straightforward though. Like I found myself not understanding it intuitively. It just wasn't super friendly. And
Yeah.
so like I never knew like, oh, do I go is this what I got to what are you talking about? What do I got to do for this? And like it trusts you to figure it out, but and I like that. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I hate when a game just handholds you and say, "Do this, press X for
Mhm.
this. Make sure you look at this." Like, don't do that, but make it a little more telegraphed. And like, when every time I do like I like pretend to be caught and then do a blaster, I get like a bonus point, and therefore like I'm out upgrading things. Make
Yeah.
that a little bit easier to understand than what it gave me. That was one of my big struggles with this game. So I'm assuming you played this.
Something that annoyed me too is
Yeah,
you can't swim in this game. That any
that's
any any
weird.
modern game where you cannot swim, it's just like, come on, guys.
Well, I mean,
Like
it
I'm
makes sense. It makes sense for Luke. He was born on a desert planet. He probably never learned to swim.
Luke got out of water plenty of times.
Yeah, I know.
He landed in the swamp in Dagobah and did okay.
That's true. Actually, that
And
makes no
I
sense
mean,
now that I'm thinking about it. How does Luke know how to swim?
well,
When was he exposed to water?
you don't know how to yeah, you don't need to know how to swim when you can bullseye womp rats. So
In your what is it?
I just think
P16,
it's dumb when you jump in
T16.
the water, you just
yeah.
like sink like a boulder and then you're dead. Like it really irritates me. Sorry. That irritates
Some
me
of
more
that
than the stealth stuff.
I really loved the like one of my favorite missions in this game is when you go into the old Republic starship
Yeah.
and you're like having to go through I thought that kind of stuff in this game was so freaking cool. I wish there was more of that stuff. Thinking about the like how well this game played or didn't play. Jared, I'm assuming you played on your Series X, right? So I played this on my Series X, but I mostly actually played this on my Ally X. And this game actually looks and runs really well, even on the handheld. It starts to chug and has a little bit of difficulty on the high speed, speeder, open world sections.
I can see
It
that.
starts to clip a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming on the Series X, it just ran just fine.
Yeah, it was great. I didn't have any issues with it performance wise at all.
So
And it's a gorgeous game, folks.
it
Like
is
it
very
is a
good looking.
really pretty game. Yeah. Very pretty game. A little empty, but
Well,
very pretty game.
Part of me, I like that it's open world and some of the aspects of it, and some of it makes sense, but part of me almost wishes they would have just made a more contained, story driven, like maybe you are open in the cities, like in the towns where you can go through and do missions and stuff, but for the
It
most
should have
part,
been more on like an avowed scale, I feel, than the level that it was. Because I mean, it took so long until you got fast travel points to get across like Tatooine or to get across
and
certain areas. It took a long
I
time, even on a speeder.
that's a reminder to me too, is I even felt like the fast travel system was cumbersome in this game.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I could never tell when and how I could fast travel. It's like, all right, I'm trying to fast travel. I got a mission way over here. I don't want to go all the way over there by foot or on my speeder. So how do I get over there? Well, for some reason, it won't let me click on the fast travel that's closest to it. Well, why can't I do that right now? I don't understand. Like, am I
Yeah.
locked into this mission and I have to go that way? Well, not really, because I could go do any mission I want right now. So I just never really grasped that. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say what this game does best though, and I was looking through the characters again. Characters are awesome in this game. They really are. And the story was really slick. Like I appreciated the turn that it gave you, like the surprise it gave you at the end with the dynamic of the person that you're working for. I thought Nyx was a wonderful character. Your little weasel
Nick,
guy, and then that
I
Jalen
like
guy. Like I thought Jalen was awesome. I thought BD5 was one of the best droids in Star Wars, and his story like he's probably the droid in all of Star Wars that I felt the most for, just because I felt badly for him because he was a slave the entire time. And
I
then the
like him a lot.
relationship he builds with Kay,
In
and then
D5,
the
right?
Indy 5, yeah, and the
Yeah.
ultimate head of that, like the peak to that. I don't want to give it away, but how that culminates, it was a really emotional mission.
Yeah.
And I thought that they handled the characters, the story, the surprises. I can't think of the story mechanic I'm trying to think of right now. The word, because it's early and I'm tired and I haven't had enough caffeine. But yeah, I thought the story was awesome.
Well, let's
It
jump
wasn't a
into that.
yeah.
Let's jump into the story a little bit. So we've done pretty good not being spoilery. This is a spoiler podcast in general, but now we're gonna spoil shit. So what do you think about that, like, twist at the end? You know,
Twist. Haha, that's the word.
that's it. So complex. You know, this all being about, I mean, really like a family conflict,
Yeah.
right? And this being about the control of the ISB.
I
That's what.
love that because you're, again, as I'm playing this, I'm expecting this to get me like into the rebellion and fighting the Empire and stuff, but it was just some stupid inheritance family squabble. Like I loved it.
Yeah, I
And
think
I
that
was
was
I
great.
was and I was just like, I truly felt salty towards that guy as Kay, because I'm like, dude, I've been going through all this shit to clear this black mark on my name, and you have been stringing me along just because you didn't get your inheritance and your brother got what you wanted. And like, it was really good. Like, I felt really straight up betrayed by that. I thought it was a great twist, and I was a very unexpected twist in the way that these games in this universe typically go. I thought it was awesome.
I mean, I'm with you on that one. I think, again, that comes down to, this is a more contained story. Honestly,
Mhm.
I don't think we need to see Vader in this game. I think that was unnecessary. I do think it's a little weird that it's, maybe I misunderstood this or misrecalling it, but I kind of feel like the premise was, hey, if I kill my brother, then I can take over the ISB. That seems weird that that's how the Empire would function, but whatever. I'll suspend belief on that one.
You might get some Vader props from that. He might get some street cred from him, because
Sure.
I mean that's what Sith
And I
do,
think
right?
that was the gist. I think that was the gist of it. But
And
it's
I
also,
will
it's like,
say real quick before we move on, I do think the Vader cameo was apt, only because in Rogue One, he interacted with Krennic a lot, who is the head of the
yeah,
ISB. And so I
yeah,
think that there's a natural relationship between the head of the ISB
fair.
and him. And so having him in there just when you're in the vents and seeing him, I think that was perfect.
Yeah, it's a nice little cameo. I think that's fine. I don't have a problem
And it
with that.
ties
It's
it to
just
the greater
interesting.
universe. I mean, but
You know,
Jabba does that too. Anyway,
you get the
sorry.
Jabba, yeah, you get
I
the Jabba
interrupted you.
cameo and stuff like. No, I'm good for that. So I asked this off air, but I'm gonna ask again on air so I can see everybody's thoughts. Who's your favorite Star Wars droid? Garrett, go ahead.
BD1.
BD1 from the new trilogy.
Cal Kestis's
Oh,
little
yeah,
droid.
yeah. Okay, never mind. I was thinking of, who was I
BB-8.
thinking of?
BB-8.
BB-8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I like BD1. Josh, what's yours? Who's your droid of choice?
I do like BB-1, or BB-8 rather, but I would probably say C-3PO just because of the comic relief.
The anxiety
C-3PO is
droid.
good.
Mm.
He's got an anxiety disorder, which is weird. You think in the future, well, it's the past. You think with that technological power, they'd be able to make a droid that's not an
Give him some digital Lexapro.
Well, and that's the thing. How they use him in the movies is not anywhere close to what he was really often commissioned for, right? Because he's like a language.
He's rarely
He's a
translating
vocabulary
things.
droid. Yeah. So,
he's a protocol droid.
Yeah, protocol.
And he's rarely doing protocol.
Yeah.
He's foreign battles.
He's just meandering around battlefields and the desert. And
I like K2 from Rogue One. I think
K2SO is good.
Yeah,
he's great. Yeah. Comedic relief. He's sarcastic and witty. It's great. It's like,
I just think concealable droids are tactically better.
Yeah, fair.
Because BD1 can do all the things. He's adorable, and he fits on your back.
Yeah. Well, K2 is K2's a double agent, basically, right? Because he's an Imperial droid. He's
Yeah.
a security droid. All right, well, let's wrap things up. That is our discussion of Star Wars Outlaws this month. Finally, we got that one coming to you. Next episode, we will be talking a nice little indie darling, Mina the Hollower. Josh and I will lead that discussion, and we'll continue from there. We still have future discussions coming up, and I guess we'll go ahead and leave it at that. So from the Game Gurus at Play to Win, thank you for listening. If you like us, please leave us a 5-star review, thumbs up,
or a tip,
a like, a follow, send us $100.
Just
Wink, wink. If you want to leave a nice comment, we appreciate that. If you hate us, you know what? Just tell your enemies and have them suffer.
If you're interested in buying something off my wedding registry, then let me know and we'll forward you the link.
Yeah.
And to the whatnot. And
Josh has got impending nuptials about to happen, right? So if you want to talk to us, hit us up at play2win at pod at
we're Faith Hilling
Gmail, or you can message us on X at pod_win. And with that, we'll see you next time, folks.
Bye.